Volunteer Advisory Board meeting. For those of you not familiar who might be, I can't see everyone right now, but might be guests for the first time, my name is Melody Delmar. I am the Director of the Office of Liaison for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives. And I am Dana Navajo, and I am so my clans are, for those who are not familiar with the Navajo language, I am, my father's clan is the Salt Clan, my mother's clan is the Red Running into Water Clan, my paternal grandfather is Yucca Fruit Strung Out on a Line Clan. It's a long one. And my final paternal grandfather is Bitterwater Clan. And again, thank you. I'm really excited to meet with everyone and hear from the communities. So this meeting is more community specific. Usually we'll have someone give a educational piece or information about their organization related to MMIR resources and work in our state and also beyond the state. This morning, as we have a full, almost full advisory board again, that we are able to start out this year with more focused intention, how the board would like to operate with each other in terms of a strategic plan, creating their own bylaws, and offering a space for them to identify what is best for their communities and what's best for the board in terms of how they are working with the office. And so first, I'd like to start out with a few updates. I want to give some time to introduce some of our new partners and newer leadership within the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. So if I could have Melissa and her team take a few minutes to introduce themselves and who you are within the work of CBI and how you would like to be involved with the MMIR work in our state.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa McGaw. I am the investigative analyst here at CBI. So we have two new members I wanted to introduce to you all. So these are going to be my new bosses, and they're going to be attending these advisory board meetings in the future and be involved in the MMIR, everything that CBI does. So I'll let them introduce themselves. This is Dave Lopez and Christian Moore, and I'll let them chat about their themselves really quick.
Okay. Are we off? Okay. All right. Yeah. Christian Moore. I'm here with Dave Lopez. We're just I guess kind of excited to be here to learn. I know CBI takes this obligation very seriously and our kind of input to this. So however we can kind of branch out and however we can kind of develop our relationships is what we're here to do.
Yep. I'm Dave Lopez. I'm the supervisor special agent for the analyst as well. And I've been recently assigned to this, and I'm really excited to learn a lot about it and develop and foster relationships and help out as much as we can.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We're glad to have you on the call and have continued leadership and involvement from the CBI. I know you've been critical in the work, and having Melissa as our analyst, who I've worked with very closely the whole time I've been here. And it's been a wonderful and critical partnership to addressing and continuing to improve our efforts and how we support our families within the state. So I really appreciate you being on the call and letting us know who you are, and welcome to the group. And
Thank
so
you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. And I also wanted to give just a few brief updates from our office. We do have are in the midst of planning our third annual MMIR law enforcement convening. And so again, for those of you not familiar with this is one of the initiatives that we first started with the office in conjunction with another state, and we hosted all of the convenings within Colorado. So the purpose of these meetings are for law enforcement to come together and learn from each other, especially with other experts in the field who are familiar with MMIR work, to best inform their practices, have discussions, and network. And so for the past few years, we've seen this event grow, and it's been very exciting to have a space for them to learn from each other and also learn from people like I want to mention Mark Cooley and also Elliot Neal, who's been a part of the event, and people who are more involved interstate and regionally, who've worked with families for the AD's office within our Southwest region, and also just experts in the field who have worked with DNA evidence and also have done their own investigations coming from a law enforcement background like Mark Hooley, among other entities who have been interested in how the work could move forward for their own capacity within their own law enforcement agencies. So it's been really nice to continue to collaborate and talk about how the state works with different law enforcement and federal law enforcement partners who have been either designated as the MMIR coordinator within their organizations, but also community members who are involved in the work. And as you can see and know that this, and I continue to say this, is that this is a issue that goes beyond our borders, and we definitely have people from other states who go missing within our state. And so looking at this dynamic and also how we can best strategize and communicate with other states quickens the time and how we can best respond and help our community members. So I am particularly excited about that. And we've definitely had some other states who've heard about the work we're doing and want to collaborate as well as we work within our state to address the issues and continue to build those collaborations and partnerships with all community members. So I'm particularly excited about that. And some other updates we have are that as we continue to grow, we are looking at different conferences that are coming up and collaborations in terms of education and working in the community. And I know I've said this before, but I also just wanted to reiterate that if you have any community meetings across the state that you're attending or any advisory boards you're a part of that could use more education on the work of the office as we continue to grow, as I know leadership changes within the state and leadership changes within tribal government. We're here to let everyone know that our office is here. We are fully staffed, and we're working on our own strategic plan right now internally and how we operate with our mission and vision and values, which are rooted in the legislation that came out for the office in terms of community partnerships, and also with the direction and the vision of the DCAJ leadership with Director Lunn and also Deputy Director Labana Verstovsky. And so those are the main big items that I wanted to let everyone know about. And of course, if you have any questions throughout the meeting, don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll leave my information in the chat. Feel free to call me or email me, text me anytime. I'm available for the community. And so next, I'd like to invite up Deputy Director Chris Labana Verstovsky to give some DCJ updates.
Thank you, Melody, and welcome everybody virtually. It's nice to see you all in little boxes. I was really looking forward to seeing you all in person in Colorado Springs, but you know, we could definitely use the moisture and the snow, and so we would never look that in a bad way. I am the son of Oleg Labanov and Berkeley Blashfield, and I am the grandson of Andre and Grace Labanov Verstovsky and Albert and Gladys Blashfield. My family came to these lands 2 generations ago. I am the 2nd generation to be on these lands, and I'm very grateful to be able to be here. My name is Chris Labana Verstovsky, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Division of Criminal Justice. I've been in this role for the past 1.5 years. Prior to that, worked in the area of sexual violence and domestic violence in our Office of Domestic Violence and Sex Offender Management. And prior to that, I'm a licensed clinical social worker and worked in the community with at-risk youth, as well as justice-involved youth. In my consulting work, I've spent many, many years working with different tribal communities related to sexual violence and prevention of sexual violence. And so I always appreciate the work that is done by this group. And I'm so proud to be a part of a state and the division that is taking this issue seriously. And I'm also very proud of the relationship that has been developed between our division and Colorado Bureau of Investigation and the work that we're doing together. Appreciate you all very much in terms of that partnership with you. Christian and I go back many, many years, and we've just kind of reconnected today. So it's kind of cool to see you again, Christian. In terms of some updates from the office and from the division, Melody covered most of them, and I won't repeat. But I do want to just express my appreciation for the work of Melody, her leadership within this office in terms of the work that she's done. She was sort of a one-person shop for many moons, and now she has a fully staffed office. And so we're very happy not only to have Melody as the director of OMMIR, but we also have Shay Arcella Bowman, we have Leo Swenson, and we have Jessica Manrique. And so very excited about the possibilities going into 2026 for this office to be able to really maximize and achieve the goals and the mission of the office. And so we're very excited about that. I think Melody's going to be talking later today about the strategic plan that has been done for the office. And so we're really excited to be able to get to work and really dig in on the strategic plan and to collaborate with this Community Volunteer Advisory Board on that. And we really want your input. We're here to serve you. And so we really want to be responsive to the needs that you have. We're excited for the partnerships that Melody was discussing that have been developed both within the state and with other state actors and federal actors as well around the country. We're very excited with Jessica coming on and her ability to do statistical analysis work, that we're going to get a better understanding of issues related to MMIR and to begin to collect some data. And so I think that's going to be really exciting to better inform the work that we all do. And then I think the most important thing has been the office's work with families. Melody and the staff have been amazing in their work in connecting with families when they're going through the most difficult time in their lives, and is somebody that can help support them, be a supportive ear, and also to be a liaison, which is why the office was set up, to help people navigate the complexities of government and how you can get the information that you want, how you can get the interest in the case that families so desperately need. So we're very excited for the work that has been done, and we're very optimistic in terms of the future. In terms of sort of some legislative updates, there was a presentation that was done by myself to the Joint Budget Committee on behalf of the division 2 days ago on the 7th, on Wednesday. And we discussed the work of the division, including the work of this office. There was nothing that was particularly asked of us at that point in time, but we know historically that the legislature is very interested in this work and very supportive of this work. We have not heard as of yet about any planned legislation coming from the state anyway, related to issues of MMIR. But if we hear of anything, we will certainly let you know immediately. Seek your counsel, seek your voices, seek your support in that. And then conversely, if there's anything that you hear about or you become aware of legislatively, please do let us know. We would like to be able to provide education and support to the extent that we can with any type of legislation that has a positive impact on Native communities. So we'll see how the legislative session goes. I think it's going to be a somewhat tough session just because the budget is very tight this year. And so we'll see how things go, but we're hopeful and optimistic that the work of this office and the work of the division are going to go forward and continue, and we will continue to be successful in the work that we're doing. And finally, I would just like to thank you all, members of the Community Volunteer Advisory Board, for your service on this board, and for being a part of this, for being our eyes and ears, for for sharing information with us, for participating in this process and helping us to develop that connection between the community and government. I think it's so valuable and so important. And we know that government hasn't always been as responsive as it should be. And we really are committed to bringing that into a good place and trying to be responsive to those needs. And we know that government is very complicated and complex, and we'll do our best to help navigate that with you and for you. But we appreciate you all. We appreciate your service on this volunteer advisory board, and we very much look forward to the partnership with you in 2026. And so with that, Melody, I will go ahead and turn it back over to you, and I thank you all.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you for giving us an update from DCJ. Unfortunately, I think he had mentioned that Matt wasn't able to attend, but I know that he is very supportive of the work, and he continues to be. If I can, I'm sure that he would echo that as well. And Chris, I'm sure that he would say that he would as well. So we're looking forward to having him be involved, to continue to be involved as our authority in the work, and also communicating how, from his expertise, how we can best support the families. And I've just seen him in a great leadership capacity and truly caring about the work in the community and being in community and supporting our members, our CVAB members on the call. So I really appreciate your leadership, Chris, and also, as well as Matt's, and also our executive leadership within DPS.
Yeah, I should have probably mentioned my boss. Oops.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. So, so today, some of the items that you see on our agenda, we might need to move around a little bit, as I started off with saying in that we're virtual now. So, obviously we're not going to continue with a lunch break. So we're just going to move through everything just because we're on limited time as well. Because usually virtually we've kept it between 2-ish hours. Just to honor people's time. And I know that it's valuable to have a lot of focus and feedback, which is why I wanted to meet in person. And 2 hours is a long meeting, so I just wanted to honor that space as well. And so one of the items that I wanted to start out with into presenting to the board is our bylaws collaboration. And with that, I'll pause for a minute, because I do understand after we've been working with our Colorado AG's office, with our designated attorney who supports our work within DPS, is creating a bylaws, I guess, skeleton draft for the advisory board members to look at and review. And so in the fall, we were able to, late last fall, we were able to send that draft to our advisory board members for their review, for their suggestions, for their input. And we also had a meeting with them just to discuss this in person, or if they wanted to just discuss it with, the office. They were given very many avenues and what they thought should be a part of how they want to operate by the bylaws. And so the bylaws are actually, and public meetings are by statute for the state of Colorado for any kind of advisory board or commission within the state. And so developing this with the task force for the first time is very crucial in adhering to that legislative piece, and also adhering to a sort of strategic and formal way that we can operate with each other in line with our mission and vision and values. And so with that said, I will do a general overview of the bylaws, and any kind of voting that moves forward with this meeting, or the creation of any kind of chairs or co-chairs, we do need to have a quorum. And so hopefully we have some other board members join us for this call who would be a part of that discussion and voting. But until then, we can't really make any decisions until we have that as a part of who participates in this meeting today. So our bylaws collaboration, and I'll bring it up, is the draft that we have for review, just for the public to see what was worked on and reviewed by the advisory board members thus far. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. And this is a draft, of course. It's a draft review, and we've already had some members review it, as I said. And I'll just go through this piece by piece, and you can review it as well. And if you would like to see it as an advisory board member. So we have Article 1, which talks about the name and purpose of the advisory board. And it talks about, the creation of the legislation through Senate Bill 22-150 and more of the legal jargon of what that means and how that plays out for the office and how it operates as a liaison for the Indigenous community for MMIR response and work. And we have the purpose of the Community Advisory Board. They help the office identify and advise on areas of concern related to MMIR work and issues or related to organizing or conducting search efforts or supportive groups or other efforts that can help maintain a purpose and vision for the office and how we respond to a community. And so that leads us to Article 2 is talking about, and again, this is a skeleton suggestion to the board and how they want to decide how this looks moving forward. So in Article 2, we have members of the board. Section 1 talks about board composition pursuant to the code there, and that the members of the advisory board include the following, and 10 members appointed by the executive director, and it goes into more specific detail of what that looks like. This information is also related to who currently serves in these roles on our website, just if you're curious in who is currently appointed or in line with, ensuring that we fulfill these roles that are identified from the community or from this legislation, excuse me. A representative from an Indigenous community, 2 of them actually, and one that's legal services, one that provides health services, community-based organization representative that provides services to an urban Indigenous community, one from a rural Indigenous community, and a victim advocate organization, and a national organization that provides education and awareness. And we move on to 3 members who have been victims of violence or are a family member of an MMIR person, loved one. 1 member from both of our tribes who are part of our federally recognized tribes down south, the Ute Mountain Ute tribe and also the Southern Ute tribe. Both these positions are appointed by the council of both tribes. 1 who represents the Ute Mountain, the Ute Indian tribe of the Uinta Ore Reservation, and 4 members who are enrolled with a tribe that has historical ties to Colorado, and 2 members with expertise in law enforcement appointed by the executive director. That would be Matt, Director Lund, and a peace officer who works or resides on a federally recognized Indian tribes reservation in Colorado. A sheriff from a county with a population of fewer than 100,000 persons, a sheriff from an urban county, a representative from Colorado State Patrol with the approval of the chief, and also a representative from the CBI and approved by the director. 2 members by the executive director who represent one of these following areas, the AG's office, and these are at the approval of those offices' administrators. 1 from the judicial branch, the Colorado Commission of Indian Affairs, and a certified death investigator certified by the State Coroners Association, and also the Department of Human Services at the approval of the executive director. And so next we have statutory requirements that all the members serve at the pleasure of the appointing authority, who is Director Lund. And the way it is set up right now is that advisory board members, highlighting the volunteer part of it in that regard, meaning that they serve without compensation and without reimbursement for expenses. And advisory board members are not considered office personnel. In section 3, we have the term of office members is 4 years, and these are, again, adjustable to what the advisory board would see is fit in terms of what this document is asking them to revise or look at and approve eventually. And these are more terms and how they operate in terms of who resigns, if there is any reason for resign, giving notice of that, any vacancies that need to be filled, appointment, how that process could be straightened out with the advisory board and how they want to vote on that. And then we have section 4 is participation, on expectations of participation. What we laid out here that made sense is that since we do operate still from according what the legislation says of 1 quarterly meeting, or attendance of, or missing, if a board member misses 1 quarterly meeting and or 75% of additional meetings, you know, that may be subject to removal as approved by the chair or the director. And then we have Article 3, which is officers. The board shall select their own officers, and this leaves out just a very general detail of what that looks like for the board members and having consensus, re-election of board members, the board officers, the voting aspect, and also they hold their offices at the pleasure of the board. And then we have, along with that, the chair duties, how they preside over all the board meetings and attendance, ensuring that the business is conducted in an efficient manner and stays aligned with the any sort of agenda that we have in line with the meetings in the future, observing and supporting and enforcing the bylaws, and absences of the chair or any person in a meeting where a quorum is present or necessary to fulfill those duties. And again, I'm briefly giving an overview just for the sake of time. And if you'd like to review this, just please let me know. In Article 4, we have the section about meetings. Of course, in statute says that we have to meet at least quarterly, and it is up to the board if they feel that they need to meet more than that time, or up to the director if an additional board meeting is needed. And I've seen that happen once in the history of the office before I was here. So, but that was at the discussion of the director at that time before I was the director. Excuse me, Director Lund. And next we have executive session. The board may move to enter executive session in accordance to open meetings law. Section 3, quorum. And so we're looking for a simple majority. So for this specific group, the simple majority is 12 board members to be able to have some voting power for the meeting, or voting rights in the meeting. And a majority of the board is required for formal action. And then next we have minutes, which is considered a draft and unofficial until it's approved by the board. And the executive sessions will be recorded and retained as required by the statute. In Article 5, we have conflicts of interest in terms of voting, if they have a conflict of interest with a particular person or entity that might influence or take away from any kind of voting that they identify for the direction of the board. And the board chair will determine whether a conflict exists. Also, this is at the discretion of the Director Lund, Executive Director. And then finally, we have the section about bylaws in Article 6 is that these take effect immediately upon the majority vote of the membership of the board, and they may be amended in whole or part by a majority vote, and they shall take effect immediately at the majority of the vote. Are there any questions or comments so far? Okay. And I just also want to give a huge kudos and shout out to Shay, who pretty much led this project and worked very closely with Finua, our point of contact from the AG's office, to help develop this, very skeleton document, and how the board could, requesting or giving some direction in how the board can have some ideas if they're not, especially not experienced in this area. And I really appreciate all the work that you put into this. So thank you, Shay. Shay, is there anything that I left out that you might want to comment on or bring to notice for the group?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything.
Okay. All right. And with that, we still do not have a quorum, so we will continue without any voting that's on the agenda. And I will let Shay take over to talk about developing committees with the board. And since we can't specifically develop any committees today, we just wanted to give everyone an idea of what kind of committees that could be, subcommittees could be made within the board that focus on at least 2 strategies for their first year in operation, also in alignment with the strategic plan we have for the office.
Melody, did you want me to jump into committee development, or did you want to chat a little bit about chair and vice chair nominations?
You can go ahead and jump into that, just because we can't make any decisions on that today. But I just wanted to offer that's one thing that we want to have for the group is nominations for chair or co-chair, and it is kind of a larger board. We're around 20, and so that would help with myself as the director in delegating their tasks and how they want to work with their own leadership moving forward. So if any of the board members here have an idea, again, we're not voting on that today, but if you have an idea of someone who you've seen as who's on the board who would be an excellent candidate to help lead in this more of a leadership area, please let me know. And also that you're able to self-nominate as well. Okay, and so Shay, I'll just go ahead and have you talk about, just to give everyone an idea of what we're thinking to talk about more about the subcommittees and development of that.
Sure, happy to jump into that. Do you mind stopping the share of the bylaws? Thank you. All right, so initially the hope was that at this point we would have voted on our bylaws and the chair and vice chair. Obviously today we're working with a bit of challenges with not only the weather, but maybe having a quorum. So we'll just move forward with what we can. So all of you are here because of your expertise in this field, and we would really love to leverage your knowledge to better serve all of our relatives. So by the end of this session, where we're talking about committees, we would love to have identified and prioritized some key committees for our advisory board to develop with clarity and purpose on next steps. The last time we talked about committees was in August, and we had a few thoughts shared during that meeting on what some core committees could be for the board to prioritize. A few examples of what was brought up last time was the committee on MIPA alerts and response, the committee on community education that develops and runs community level workshops, a committee regarding post-certification and jurisdictional questions, as well as a committee to help develop the what to do when a relative goes missing page on the OMMIR website. So I think the best way for us to move forward, because we do have a lot of people in this meeting, I think the next steps for us is we're going to break board members into some smaller breakout groups. And in those groups, if you could just chat for, let's say 10 minutes, that should be plenty of time, about any sort of ideas or expertise that you have, and you're like, this particular area of MMIP work is really important to me, just so we can start that initial brainstorming within your small groups. And then we will come back and share out with what those are. And then I will have everything on a virtual mural board so that we can think through which ones we want to prioritize moving forward. So with that,
Well,
Leah?
since we don't have a quorum, we can't really move forward with that. So we need to wait, but I'm okay with us having like a discussion and having ideas for moving forward. And also, probably since we only have about 11 board members here, it's okay for us to have that right now instead of breaking into groups.
Okay, I was hoping to have people in groups of 5, just since the total call has 30 people on it. But if you'd rather have it open here, we can move forward with that, I guess.
Are there any thoughts from the current advisory board members on whether you'd want to break up or?
This is Daisy,
Thanks, Daisy.
Blue Star. Yeah. I like the idea of just breaking out just for discussion, only because there's a handful of topics that I feel like if we can get multiple thoughts out there, then it'll help us progress a little bit further. So if and when the voting time does come, then we have a little bit of a head start. Just because we're slightly behind on the voting, maybe it'll give us more to work for in the future, if that helps.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Daisy.
Melody, this is Lorinda Morgan.
Hi, Lorinda.
Hi, how are you? Hello, everyone. I think it would be good to just have a discussion with everyone so that everyone can kind of be on board and in the loop of what different areas that we may be able to think about in the future for the smaller groups. You know, because if we're placed in different groups, you know, we may be able to contribute to a different area of expertise if we know what the various topics are going to be or what we want to emphasize on. So I think if we discuss today, like, you know, advocacy or education or community education, or, you know, like what type of things do we want to discuss, like the topics? That would be good to give us some idea of where we might fit into these groups, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Lorinda. I hear you. Is there any other thoughts from board members?
So just, and we can move on after my question, unless anybody else. I have a question as to when we go in, if we go into the breakout groups, or if we do not go into the breakout groups. My question is it open, or are you giving us bullet points to focus on? Or, you know, that, I mean, just listening to both of the ways, I'm just curious how the breakout groups would function, if it would benefit to be out in breakout groups or if it would benefit for us to stay together. I just want to know what your thoughts are. Just because we really need to be successful in, all this work that we're doing together.
Yes, I think my initial thought for breakout groups was so that everyone can just brainstorm together and share your thoughts in a smaller group, and then we would come back together, share out, and put all of the ideas, so we would still capture everybody's ideas when we're together, but being able to share everyone's ideas more on a smaller one-to-one basis, because I know the board has also mentioned before wanting to have more of that intimate time with other board members to be able to voice more openly what our preferences are. That was my idea, just to break out for a few minutes, have that discussion. I see that some people have already put in the chat what their thoughts are, which is great. That's exactly what I wanted, just that initial thoughts on what priorities every individual person is bringing to that, so that we can share out together, and then maybe see which ideas could go together, which ideas might be short-term or long-term. And like you said, we can't make a final decision on what committee would be without a quorum, but at least we would have a good start on kind of listing out what a few priorities we have together. Okay, so let's go ahead and just do that so we can kind of keep things moving. Leah, if you don't mind helping me with the breakout groups, we can split those up just so we have that moving.
Chris?
I just have a question. You're talking about breaking out board members. Was there something that you wanted from the rest of us as well in terms of participation, or is this more of a board member activity and then the rest of us will just kind of respond to that?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay.
So if y'all could just sit tight while we have them meet for a few minutes, and then we can have them come back and present to the community of what their thoughts are and open it up to more of a public comment on what they discuss.
Sounds great.
Okay, so if y'all just will hang out with us while we wait for them to meet, and we'll come back in about 5 minutes, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Melody, quick question.
Yeah.
I know when we were talking about the breakout group, she had mentioned there's 30 people on the call. So is that inclusive for everybody? Being that there is 30 and being that we are just brainstorming, or is this just specific to board members? I'm listening to all the conversation, and I just wanted to make sure I'm on the same page.
Yeah, so it sounds like the way Shay had it set up is that she'd like for the board members to meet first and talk a little bit and brainstorm. No decisions will be made, obviously, because we don't have a quorum, just in general, and then just to bring back to them, but also for board members who aren't here, just to continue that conversation and what they're hoping to look at, what these subcommittees would look like. How does that sound?
Are we breaking up according or getting into?
Lydia, I think your sound is pretty muted. So I think right now we are ready with the breakout groups. There should be breakout group 1 and 2. Leah, could you share the next steps for the breakout groups?
Yeah, I'm ready. I've just split people up into 2 groups, one of 6 and one of 5. And whenever you're ready, I can send people into the groups.
All right, sounds good. I think we'll go into that group and maybe, Courtney, let me double check the agenda. Timing. Okay, we can come back at 10:57. How does that sound?
Hey, Melody, really quick, I have to be stepping off. I have to go in front of a grand jury here, so I might be gone for about 45 minutes. Dave will still be here, though.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Hopefully
right.
it's nothing you did, Christian.
I'm gonna send everybody into 2 rooms, and there's a timer on them for 5 minutes, and you should all just pop back into this main call. If you get disconnected, just go ahead and join the meeting again, and you should end up back in the main room with us. Thank you.
So while we're hanging out, Melody, are you thinking, I know it's not necessarily just your decision, but are you thinking these committees are going to be open to only board members? And I say this respectfully, that not all of the board members have the experience to develop these sorts of trainings. And so will you be getting insight from non-board members in that development, or have the committees open to non-board members?
Right, and that's something for them to decide when they come back, when we have a quorum, is to decide first in the bylaws and what they see these subcommittees looking like. If they want to start with just them, and obviously these are open meetings, so they're open to everyone. But in terms of having a quorum with them with their own voting, non-community members can definitely observe. However, at the end of these meetings, this is just a suggestion, obviously have to bring it back to our leadership, is one of the things could happen, from my understanding, is that it would be open to everyone at the discretion of the bylaws of the board. And also, they could also convene together in these meetings, but also come back to the community for public comment on what they discussed. And I hear you, there's different levels of experience and especially within the OMMIR work that is very critical. And I know there might be people who are newer to the work or not too familiar or have the expertise. So I think having the public comment, especially from organizations who've been there who might not specifically be on the board, but who could give some insight or some direction as well and their suggestions on what was discussed. And just to update to everyone, it looks like the group needs a little bit more time, so we're going to give them a few more minutes to conclude their discussions. I know some people are already trickling back in, but again, feel free if you have any questions about how the board will operate from the community in the future, and I'm looking forward to hearing what the groups will report on once they get back into the room.
Melody, I think the timer automatically put everyone back in before we were able to conclude the conversation. So just a heads up.
Okay. That is okay. Do we have enough information to at least start talking about some ideas that came up?
I think we could get started. And it looks like Delilah has her hand raised.
Hi, I am so sorry. I had a visitor come and so I missed if I was supposed to go into a meeting. But I did want to see if there was any group for education.
I don't think you missed anything, Delilah. But thanks for checking in. I think we're just about to get started on the conversation. Melody, can we move into sharing out from what we heard? Does that work for you? All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started on some brainstorming. I'm going to share my screen really quick. Thank you, Rosie, for sharing your thoughts. Here we go. So, is my screen visible to everyone? Great, thank you. Okay, so now we can just open conversation up a little bit more. How are people? Is anyone from the other group or from the group that I was in, or if we didn't get to talk about it, I think we should just go ahead and get started and just list any ideas, whether you want to put them in the chat or take yourself off of mute to do that. And I see Daisy is up, so we'll get started with Daisy.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to go ahead and get the conversation going. One of the things that we had talked about, and I got kicked out early, so there might be more ideas from my group, but working with other states and learning about how to get support from each state. One example was the Feather Alert, working across when a Native American Southern Ute tribal member went missing in California, and the work we had to do to get the Feather Alert out. I think that kind of education for each state would be helpful, helping us learn how that works. And then Lorinda was talking about how they have a MMIP coalition in Oklahoma, and they work across through Texas, Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, and so it'd be good to learn how each state works. It was brought up that each state has different laws, so maybe we learn about the different laws, and that way we can communicate accordingly and figure out how to work cross jurisdiction a little bit easier. So those were the notes that I took. Thank you.
Hi, this is Lorinda. I also just want to chime in and say that, especially with tribal lands, and I know there's various jurisdictions, city, county, state, federal, but also having that information put out on the various. I know when you're looking for information, you have to go to different websites like the BIA MMU units and regions, and to have those contacts readily available to advocates or even law enforcement in your state. Because I know in Oklahoma, like if we have to work with Colorado or the BIA is set up, they have different jurisdiction regions. They have 12 regions, so they may cover multiple states, and so they have different agents. So the agent you may work with may have to contact the agent out in California, and even with the state agencies, you may have to reach out to California state agency or AG or whoever. I know we have in Oklahoma, we have the advocates have a coalition, and then the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, we have an MMIP unit, and then our Attorney General just established a task force coalition, which, he's the main law enforcement officer for the state. So there's a lot of various levels of contacts. And I think just getting that information readily available to the advocates and law enforcement in Colorado could help their investigations across various states and jurisdictions.
And I can speak on that too a little bit, because I agree with that, because it is very confusing. And every state has a fusion center, which exists after 9/11 because states were communicating with each other. And so that's a good starting point to try to get who to talk to in every state. So we can always assist with that, because they can be a good resource. And I also echo what Daisy was discussing as well, because now I think a lot of states are adopting a version of their MIPA alert, like California with a Feather Alert. The only difference is every state can create their own criteria. So that's a good thing to educate ourselves on, as well as which states now have a version of the MIPA alert and what the criteria is. For instance, New Mexico's turquoise alert that went live, I believe, last April, has a very strict criteria. And I don't remember all of California's, but I believe Oklahoma is getting one as well, or they already have one. So it'd be good just to go throughout all the different states just to see the different criterias, because I think that could be very beneficial, like Daisy was saying.
Hey, this is Jennifer from CCIA. I really like where this is going, and I think as we're looking into various states and what they've got going on within their structures, also identifying a point of contact. So as we're continuing to communicate with the other states, we have somebody that's like that is understands the work that's being done and how we're continuing to partner.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aisha. Just wanted to add my 2 cents into this conversation. Very good discussion. Quick introduction. I work for a DOJ program, training technical assistance program called Amber Alert, specifically Amber Alert Indian Country. We've worked with Melody in the, I know she's attended some of our presentations or our conferences. Our job is to work with all the tribes within the states on their Amber Alert response, and specifically those tribes that have their own alert process or those MMIPs, Indigenous alerts. Just wanted to advise that we are here to help. I know you guys have your contacts as well, but just letting you know this resource is available through our program, and Melody has our contact.
Thanks, Taisha, and it's always a pleasure to be working with you and the wonderful work you do in Indian Country as well. And thank you for joining us and for your insight. And if you need Taisha's information, I'd be more than happy to share that in a follow-up email.
And really quick, sorry, I also wanted to echo what Monica said in the chat. We have seen this a couple times with MIPA alert activations of several law enforcement agencies saying that you need to wait 48 or 24 hours to report someone missing, which very much frustrates myself and our alert coordinator, Caitlin Jenkins, because that is not something that needs to be, you do not need to wait to report somebody missing. You also can report somebody missing to any agency. It's better to report someone missing where they were last seen or where they resided. However, any agency can take that missing person report. But we are seeing this, and I don't know if it's going to be that new hires, or I think it is a lack of education in some areas. However, I don't know where that is coming from. Every law enforcement agency does have their own policy. However, the 24 to 48 hour waiting period is very archaic. And so I don't know what agency would have that to wait that amount of time. So I just wanted to jump on here and add my 2 cents to that.
Thanks for all the input so far from everyone. I'm sure there are some more comments, and I think there might have been a few things from people in the chat. Is there any other things that we haven't captured yet? I know prior we talked about what to do when a relative goes missing page for the website, and that potentially being a group. So we talked about interstate collaboration, knowing state processes and the criteria across states, maybe having a contact directory for enrolling our advocates, and not working in collaboration with all of the resources that exist at the Fusion Center and making sure that the Fusion Center is accessible. Education for law enforcement officers, post trainings, working on, I think Monica mentioned, having post trainings more regularly instead of just a one-time requirement, and what that would look like. And MIPA process education, so that we are making sure that the public knows that there is not a waiting time for a MIPA. Are there any additional
Shay,
thoughts? Yes.
This is Lorinda. What about public safety, community awareness, education on human trafficking, domestic violence, and resources for those areas? Alcohol and substance abuse resources, but mainly probably awareness on signs of human trafficking and those type of things, the factors that contribute to MMIP. I think community education is very important.
Yes, thank you for that, Lorinda. Anything else we want to add?
I have a question, or can we also, I know that this was brought up in a meeting that I had recently, about when we do this research on who we speak to locate a relative, maybe outside of state, who is who's in charge? We need to find out like who our main point of contact is for each jurisdiction. Not only because we want to work with them, but because we need to hold some sort of accountability to each jurisdiction, basically because of the lack of cooperation that we get in some jurisdictions when it comes to trying to get a MIPA out or trying to find our relative in a different part of the state. As we are held accountable, we also want to make sure that others are on the same page as us. So we want, if we can get main points of contact, because the data that is being requested now is based off of accountability and success rate in those jurisdictions. And that was just brought up in a recent meeting.
I also want to say, this is Lorinda, that we've experienced the same issues in dealing with different states, primarily California as well, LA County. And one of the things, the law enforcement there, like we talked about, they have different set of protocols, and they would not talk to advocates on cases. You had to be a law enforcement officer. So what we ended up having to do was, I don't know if every state, obviously if there's a contact person, we in Oklahoma have the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation that has a liaison that had to reach out to, for law enforcement to law enforcement. And then, I don't know if, like you said, every jurisdiction, even it goes down to even the city police, their policies and procedures and protocols are all different on who or how they're going to work on a case. And so, but I know that Department of Homeland Security on the federal side is working to try and identify state liaisons, law enforcement, and work on the state level to try and get like state level AGs, public safety, State Bureau of Investigations, to find out who those contacts are. So I know that's forthcoming, but that is something that I think we all need to know, and we talked about it like a directory, but I know, and that includes BIA as well. So it depends on if California has any federal Indian land, we would have to step back and say, okay, BIA MMU unit, we need you to call, and, and sometimes they can work across those boundaries. So just FYI, that's something that I think is prioritized for law enforcement in working on those cases. And it's very difficult. So I agree, Daisy. There needs to be at least the law enforcement contacts on the state level, or liaisons who are going to reach out in those difficult situations.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate from the outside this conversation that's happening, and I'm looking forward to having us synthesize this information for the board to further discuss, and we can actually make decisions together. So again, no decisions are going to be made today without the full quorum according to statute. But I really appreciate, the brainstorming that's happening even within community, the comments that are going to the chat. And so when I give my update and review for the group and what was discussed, we'll definitely have this organized in a way for the group to review and to have access to for the next discussion we'll have in terms of how the board will operate in line with the strategic plan. And I really always enjoy hearing everyone's active thoughts and meaningful participation, because that really helps us give a lot of good direction on where the group would like to go in terms of supporting the families from your own backgrounds and your own expertise and how you work within, within and across the state and also interstate. So I really appreciate this conversation. And if we're okay with moving ahead, I'd like to try and keep us within those 2 hours we usually have, just to, again, acknowledge that we are not meeting in person. Even that meeting would have been longer. And if you do have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, and we can, or any thoughts or comments that you have after this stews a little bit, and then we can get back to you and add your comments and what you thought about this initial conversation on how the board can potentially identify certain places of intention for the first few years with this strategic plan. Okay, and so next, since we're not having lunch, we'll move ahead, and I'd like to have, if you can, Leah, share your screen with the, so today in person, we wanted to originally, I wasn't aware of this when I first started, but it was brought to my attention that this is a DCJ thing, that they usually recognize people who are no longer part of our boards. So I want to ensure that in moving forward that we do this, but I wanted to recognize the work of Rick Waters, who I know has been involved with the office long before me. So Leah, are you able to share that?
So our office had a little plaque created for Rick. That's kind of there, and it just acknowledges his service on the board, and something that he can keep to commemorate that from the Division of Criminal Justice. And also included with that is a challenge coin from the division. And those, I think, originally are from the military, but they're huge in law enforcement culture, and they represent honor and collaboration and achievement. So we have that for him as well, and the plan was to present that in person today. So we're adjusting and sharing that virtually.
Yes, and I don't know if Rick, you want to give a few words? I'll put you on the spot, but I'll also open it up to the community. It looks like people are very supportive and thankful to Rick for what he's done, not only within the board, but also within the community. I myself can give my story of how I first met him. It was my first, I believe it was one of my very first meetings I had with community, and it was with Rick, and I reached out to him, and he immediately was ready to meet with me within a few days to talk about the important work of the Denver Indian Center and his heart for the community. And we spoke for a bit on his involvement with the office and supporting the work of the previous work that had been done before I even started there. And so I was always very welcomed by Rick in terms of not only being new to this work work within Colorado, within the office, but also just within the general Denver community. He's always invited me to the events that they've had, and to, you know, one of the first elders luncheons I ever went to. And when I first started and learning more about the community and the partnerships, as much as I could do as a one-person show, looking at meeting people across the state. So Rick, I really appreciate the work you've done, and I'm really glad that you said even though you have to step away from your role as a director or within this work, you're always willing to come back and support the work in any way you can. So thank you, Rick, for your service to the task force board. And if you'd like to say a few things, you can go ahead, but I'll keep it open for a couple minutes if anyone wants to say anything, or congratulations to Rick.
Well, thank you, Melody, and a little bit of surprise. I'm still involved in the community in many ways, and in this one, and I was regretful that I had to inform you I was no longer fitting the technical part of a representative of a Native organization. But listening to you today on the bylaws, hearing in my interest in what's going on, possibility of maybe being a representative from one of the historic tribes, being Kiowa. We were one of the treaty tribes with the state of Colorado as well. But with that said, thank you very much. It's good to see some other familiar faces, Monica and Raven on the call today. And I know Monica has been a very strong ally, and obviously I don't know how many hours a day she puts into her work on the task force, but just want to say thank you, and I'm still involved. And as I was telling one group, when I was working with the Indian Center, that was a position that had a specific responsibility. But what I do often, I consider being Indian, being Native 24/7, and being involved in what's going on in the community and for the benefit of the community. I'm a board member of the People of the Sacred Land, and for those of you that are in Denver or have heard word of the Embassy of American Indian Embassy, Cultural Embassy, that's going to be established out near the airport here in Denver. I'm very much involved in that process at this point. Still sit on a number of advisory boards here in the Denver area, University of Colorado, Denver Art Museum. Right now, I've been working with the city of Denver on identifying through RFPs who's going to take over the concession at the Buffalo Bill Museum at Lookout Mountain as you go out the interstate leaving Denver. But most recent, continue and got word with the Denver Nuggets. They want to continue working with me, even though I'm not with the Indian Center, on maintaining the Native American Night each year. So I'm still involved, and hopefully still involved with MMIR. So all that being said, thank you again. Somehow I'll retrieve the plaque, can find a place for it. Hopefully there'll be one I can show my grandkids. That's what I've been spending a lot of time as well. It's chasing grandkids, going to games and events and activities, and babysitting as well. So.
Thank you again, Rick. And again, if anyone else wants to say a few words, please raise your hand, or I know there's plenty of comments coming through, and I think Rick will have to take you out for lunch or something. And I'm really glad that you gave a little bit more history on all the work that you've done. It looks like Delilah has her hand raised.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you, Rick, for all your support in college with me. Rick had approved a lot of trips for me to take to Montana to present on federal Indian boarding schools, and also helped me get a flight to Stanford University to attend an Indigenous seminar there. And I just want to say thank you for all your support. I'm now getting my master's degree, and I'm just so thankful for all the times that you supported me and helped me with my education and my family. So, and also here in the community in Fort Collins, when we've lost community members, you've always lent a hand and gave us your support and prayers. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Delilah, and that just further goes to show your commitment to the community and helping us see our community members be successful in whatever they want to do. So seeing no other hands raised, again, thank you, Rick, and thank you for everyone who said some kind words and some nice thoughts to Rick as he goes on to have a very important role of being the primary babysitter. It sounds fun.
I would also like to second any sort of involvement that Rick could keep with the MMIR task force, or our task force and this advisory board. I think his commitment to this work for years has been, we wouldn't be where we're at now without Rick. So he's forever everyone's favorite uncle. He's the Indian mayor of Denver. None of that will change. I have these Team Rick buttons. If anybody wants one, we have a whole bunch of them that we had made. If you wear them in certain settings, it's fun because people get very angry. But, you know, if there's a way to keep him on this advisory board, I think we need him here. I think we need him here. He can babysit us just like he babysits his grandkids. I think it's important that he stays involved. He understands the community. He understands the issues. He's very diplomatic. He can work across different systems and organizations. And if there's a way to keep him, I think you should.
Thanks for that. And that's definitely a discussion I'd love to have with our appointing authority, because especially since you expressed your continued interest in as we move forward, we'll figure out a way, Rick, either way. So I appreciate it. And I appreciate those nice words for him, Monica. Okay, so moving on. I wanted to have a quick overview and discussion over our, it's almost in finalization, but the draft we have for the office in terms of a strategic plan and that'll help guide conversations with the advisory board on, initially their ideas for this session, but also, how it's aligning with the bylaws and how they operate in the community, and the intention and the vision of the office in terms of how we operate within the community. And I will share my screen real quick if I can. I don't think I can. There we go. Okay. And again, as always, if you have any thoughts or any considerations with this is just a very general plan that we had put together just internally for the office. And this reflects, again, after reviewing and doing some research on mission and visions, and from my experience in helping organizations devise this is and I have to reword a few little things, but our general mission is to build community strategic partnerships and collaborations, ensuring that the safety and well-being of our Indigenous missing or murdered relatives are upheld. And our vision is to establish meaningful and authentic communication and response to sustain our commitment to the community with integrity. And so we have two at the direction with Director Lund, and also some engagement with our office. We had established, myself working with Chris Labanov-Rosowski, who has had a lot of experience in this area, so I'm happy to have their insight. It's in terms of public safety oriented mission and vision and goals in setting up a strategic plan. Can't say that word. So one of our goals is to first set up and establish a full advisory board and convene to develop bylaws and to build a more systemic plan for statutory training requirements. And this is coming from our requirements from our AG's office, and also to continue to identify community needs with 2 priorities over the next 2 years based in community partnerships, education, training, and advocacy. And so this is also in direct alignment with Director Lund's and DCJ's pillars of strategic plan that he had been letting everyone know about for the past year that DCJ has been developing. So one of those that we identified, myself and him, is that a lot of our work is obviously very community oriented, and one of those pillars is the first one, which is elevating and being responsive to all who call Colorado home. And if you've heard Matt speak enough, you know that's kind of his tagline, which I really appreciate, because I feel like Colorado does really feel like home now, almost 2 years in of living here. So the first objective of that is 1.2 is increasing engagement with underserved communities within the DCJ pillars, and also the measurement of that is the number of trainings and technical assistance contacts that are provided. And it looks like this measurable goal is more in line with how engaged our office has been in creating partnerships within the community, and also the number of educational training or technical assistance we can provide. And one of those measurements is also through the resource guide. That is also another big undertaking and project that Shay is helping take the lead on. Another kudos to her is that as she puts together this resource guide, it'll help align also with the resource line that is within the purview of KAYAK, which is the Community Information Center within the Department of Public Safety. And so in talking to them and aligning with how we can best make sure that whichever resource is coming out from them, it's culturally appropriate, it's aligned with the Native community, and they're getting the best MMI supports that's specific to the needs of the resource or the family through the resource line is being met. And we did find, Shay was really great at finding a Colorado 2-in-1, I believe, to house this resource guide as it can be developed throughout the years and utilized not only by our departments within public safety, but also across the state of Colorado. And it's really nice to hear actually the alignment already happening with what the initial brainstorming discussion was like, hearing from the community, more increased training and cultural understanding from law enforcement, streamlined jurisdictional communication, both within the state and out of the state, how things can be improved. And a lot of it, since I've been here, has been simply going to meetings. I went to plenty of meetings to just discuss what our work is, why it's important, and who is involved and who are our key partners that we can collaborate with and partner with, who will continue to give us a place and give us a space to address this with people who are not totally, oh, sorry, I saw your, okay, yes. And also, yeah, we definitely do have your information on our list that we would like to release, Monica, as we move forward. And I know that the task force has been instrumental in being there for, on the front end direct service support for families. And so, again, streamlining with other community partners and learning about new people in the game who are interested in doing this work. And I find that people who are most engaged and actually care, who are not too familiar with how this has occurred within our Native communities with the high rates of violence we experience, they become engaged and they truly are wanting to be involved with authenticity and with also effectiveness. And I'm really grateful for that, especially when I see it within our own leadership. with our different divisions within DPS. So with that said, I know that's a lot. If you have any comments or you'd like to see this or have any suggestions or questions, please let me know. This is just a very brief overview over how this could align within how the advisory board would like to operate with the bylaws, and also ensuring that we're in alignment with, within the Division of Criminal Justice, and also how the office can really take into consideration with a lot of intention of how we're responding and working with the community. And that's why I'm so grateful for this group, especially today, as we really start to hone in on specific areas we can look at and work on for the next few years, especially as we come into a time and place where we might be having, we will be having a change in our state leadership, and being prepared for that is very important to me, and looking at the next few years of what the office looks like past this administration. And I'm just really thankful that we have people who are champions in the community who are ready to ensure that this work continues to support our families. So are there any questions so far, or any thoughts or comments? Excuse me. Okay, well, hearing none, I again don't hesitate to raise your hand if you need some time to think about it a little bit, but I wanted to open up this in closing. We're a little bit further ahead than I expected, but I just wanted to hear back from the community if you have any events happening or anything, any celebrations you're having coming up soon. Oh, I see, Monica, you have your hand raised.
Hello. So just to comment on what Chris was talking about earlier in legislation, Sweetgrass Advocacy is pushing for a bill to add a line item to victims' compensation. So there's no fiscal note, so we're hoping that this should pass pretty easily. We already have sponsors in place. The finalized draft was introduced on Monday, I believe. But we are looking to have victims' compensation approve ceremony and traditional healing for enrolled tribal members who are victims of a crime. So when we have someone who was maybe reported missing out of either a trafficking or a kidnapping situation and they need healing services, that's something that the state could pay for under the victims' compensation statutes. So if y'all could support that, that would be great. And just real quick, I also want to acknowledge that Daisy, amazing Daisy Bluestar, has been appointed to the cold case task force for the state of Colorado under the Department of Public Safety. So yes, everyone applaud for her, tell her how amazing she is. And we want to give a shout out to CBI and Arapahoe for finally identifying the kicking horse John Doe since 1982. And we also want to acknowledge that his remains were missing for many years. And if it wasn't for the pushing of the task force, in addition to Melissa and Audrey and the family of another MMIR case, he may still have been missing and stayed unidentified. So his family are finally getting answers after 40 years. So shout out to Melissa and Audrey on that, because they are amazing. And then, we've always continued to put on the pressure for another very old case, which is Francis Huell from the Springs around 1979. His family was holding out thinking that he may be that kicking horse John Doe. So although it's closure for his family, it's kind of more unanswered questions for Francis Huell's family. So we're hoping to get some answers. And the follow-up that they have also done with CSPD with us, because the Huell case, his family had him declared deceased in court. So we are hoping that CSPD, who have done almost nothing on this case for many years, even though we have new leads, will close out this case as a missing person and transfer it hopefully to CBI. So something will actually get done. And like we've talked about before, we've had continued issues with families trying to make missing person reports, and those not going out without the pressure from either our task force or Melissa quite often. We were doing pretty good for a minute they were going out pretty regularly, and now we're kind of falling back into it, that they don't realize that they need to issue them. They don't ask about race and ethnicity. And we are finding more and more cases on NamUs that are finally getting entered in that should have had MIPAs going out a year or 2 years ago. So those were missed opportunities for families to get those additional resources and that additional exposure. And then we are going to be doing, just to put it on your calendar for later, because May is a busy month, we're going to be doing May 2nd MMIR rally here in the Springs again this coming year. And I know there's other powwows and stuff going on, but we don't care. We're honoring the families. So, and feel free to reach out to us. And if there's anything that we can do, or, we're dealing with families on a very regular basis. They're calling us and contacting us via email. I would say quite more often than they have been. We've been having folks from out of state contact us that their relative is missing here in Colorado, and we've been able to walk them through that MIPA process, and folks are getting found. We have the missing, or we don't have, you all have, the Missing Person Day coming up in February, and there is a little blurb that acknowledges MIPA and the state's contributions to the creation of the Office of OMMIR, and we are hoping that we can get a final count of the MIPAs that went out up through the end of the year to add to that. And if not, our task force will be there reading the names of all of the missing Native folks for the state of Colorado.
Thank you, Monica. That's very valuable information. And is there a specific day set yet for the Missing Persons Day, Melissa?
Yes, it's going to be the 4th, I believe. We'll be sending out the flyer shortly. I think Audrey just finalized it this week, so we'll be sending it out to everybody. And so, yes, we stand on the steps of the Capitol and read all the names of the missing persons, and the task force reads all the names of the missing Indigenous folks. And I should be getting all my stats done by next week, hopefully, for the MIPA alert and everything else for this past year. So we should be getting those numbers out, or I will be getting those numbers out. And then I think I mentioned this at the last meeting as well, but there was an arrest in September for a cold case of Rosa Arguello that she was found murdered in 2003. And so there was an arrest for a man out of state. I am keeping her on the dashboard for now because the Thornton Police Department detective wants anyone to contact them with any additional information that they see, but they're going to keep me in touch with what's going on with that process. So that's a big win as well, because they had recently just opened that case. So that's pretty awesome.
Thanks for sharing, Melissa. And I'm really glad to hear that we're getting justice for our families. So thank you for that, and for everyone who's been involved in pushing that forward. All right, any other announcements from any organizations, groups? Anything we should put on our calendars or in my follow-up email? Just let me know and I can do that as well if you remember, or if we missed it on this call. Okay, David, thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this. It's amazing, the passion that you all have for this. I'm excited to learn so much, and be here to serve you all and see how we can help. And Melissa will be a great guidance as well. So thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.
Yes, and thank you again for Melissa for giving us an introduction to your new bosses. And David, I just want to say that Melissa has been extraordinary as a partner in representing CBI and all the work that she does, and is passionate about our families. And I've called her many late nights to talk about how we can work together, and I really appreciate it. So I just want to shout out Melissa too under CBI, that she's done incredible work.
Thank you.
I also have a quick update that the Utah folks that you had on one of these meetings recently, so last time, I don't know, all my days run together. We were able to network with them regarding Everett Laysbad. That was there were remains found right on the Colorado-Utah border. And he had been in Colorado right before that had happened. And they had also lost his body for like 30 years, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't know where it was. We couldn't verify if Everett Laysbad had actually was still living or if the remains that were found just had his ID as part of an identity theft. But his tribal ID was found on him. And Utah has been great at getting all kinds of information. They just gave us an update the other day that they are going to be requesting DNA. They're working with some of the funeral homes that we've also contacted in South Dakota. So we might actually, I think the date was 60, I don't know. It was a long time ago. Longer than Melody's been alive. So I can't remember the date, but they're going to actually be able to hopefully verify soon if that is an MMIR case or if that was just someone who's actually stole this man's ID and it's just been kind of under the radar for so long because his remains have been missing. So that connection and that additional research came from that networking that we did on this meeting the last time.
Good. I'm glad that connection was made, and I'm looking forward to us working even more so with Utah. And they have really good people on board on their team too. So anytime we can bring that networking together and we can provide an avenue for people to start talking and continue talking, and especially when it comes to those cases, I'm really happy about that. So thanks, Monica, for that update.
This is Daisy before.
Yes.
Also, I just wanted to plant the seed again, and I'll probably plant it a billion times until we start to figure out how to make movement here, is jails and prisons. MMIR, we have families who are continuously asking about their loved ones, investigations, how to go about, those situations in there. We've had other Indigenous relatives talk about, the injustices that happen in jails and prisons, and their stories need to be heard, and hopefully we can open up that can of worms. I know it's going to be a little bit different, but I'm going to keep planting this seed until we start to see some movement here, because it's important to the families that are out here seeking justice for or answers for their loved ones. So thank you. That's it.
Thanks, Daisy. All right. Well, I just have one last very quick announcement. It's more of an acknowledgement, but today is Chris Lobanov-Rostovsky's 20-year anniversary with DCJ. And so I just wanted to say thank you, Chris, for all you've done. That's incredible. That's an incredible amount of time. And knowing him these past few years that I've worked with him, and collaboration. He's also worked in Indian country with different organizations, and so he knows a little bit more about working with Native communities, and I really appreciate that for someone who comes from a non-Native background. So, and I appreciate you, Chris, and your dedication to your role, and we celebrate you today.
Thank you, Melody. That's very kind of you to recognize that, and it's hard to believe it's been 20 years of state service. So anyway, but I love my job. I love what I do, and I love being of service. And so what a great way to be of service is to be involved with all of you. Thanks, Monica. My favorite thing is the sense of humor, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Chris, and thanks for the comments and commemoration as well from the group. I really appreciate it. And as if anyone has anything else, please let me know. Otherwise, I think we are done for today.
It just sounds like this meeting was full of celebration. So congratulations, everybody.
Hey, yes, congratulations, everyone. All right, well, we will see you at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.